I'd now like to introduce one of our valued clients, a fairly new client, Joe from Rubies in the Rubble. Joe, please, could you give us a brief introduction to Rubies in the Rubble?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name's Joe, and I'm the head of NPD at Rubies in the Rubble. As Suzanne mentioned earlier, Rubies in the Rubble is a sustainable food company. We make condiments, so that's chutneys, ketchups, and mayos with surplus ingredients that would otherwise be wasted. So that's mainly fruits and vegetables that are the wrong shape or size for supermarkets. We partner with farms to source these ingredients directly, and we sell our products to restaurants and pubs, as well as many supermarkets and independents around the UK.
Okay, and what were the main R&D projects that you have claimed for your first 3 years?
The main R&D projects that we claimed against in our last claim were the development of our vegan mayo, which is made with aquafaba, and the development of a low sugar ketchup, where we used pear to replace the sugar. And I thought I'd speak of the aquafaba mayo specifically. This was a brand new to market idea. Aquafaba wasn't being used as an ingredient at any manufacturers that we worked with at the time, and it also wasn't an ingredient that you could source. We identified it as a byproduct of the hummus industry in the UK, so a surplus ingredient. We carried out research at various different hummus manufacturers across the UK to understand how they work and what was happening to the aquafaba at their site. Most commonly, it was just being drained away. We then carried out tests and various manufacturing trials, creating mayos from aquafaba from different sites, trialing recipes. Our goal was to replace the eggs in mayo with aquafaba, but without adding any other gums or emulsifiers that were common in other vegan mayos currently available. So we wanted to create an improved product that was also utilising a surplus ingredient, and we worked with a consultant to help us with some of the recipe development. And this was all kind of what made the kind of basis of our claim, was that work and research.
And roughly how much were your R&D costs on those projects?
I think overall our claim for that first year was around £44,000, which was a lot more than we expected, which was amazing.
So that's the amount you got back, rather than the amount you spent.
Yes.
The amount you spent was probably around 3 times that, something like that.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and how long did it take to compile your R&D claim with us?
I think the first time it took a few months, perhaps longer for that first time than moving forward. It took some time initially to understand which of the projects that we'd worked on would be valid to claim for, and it was definitely really helpful working with the consultancy to do that. And once we'd identified which projects were appropriate and valid to claim for, I'd say after that it's fairly straightforward. As you mentioned, writing up the technical justification, working through our accounts to assign expenditure to the correct projects, and also kind of catching up with our team to understand the time spent on all the projects, and that's sort of what took the most time, I think.
Okay, and once you'd got your claim in, how long before HMRC actually settled your claim and made the payments?
I double checked this because I wasn't 100% sure. So we submitted our claim in December and the claim was settled in January, so only a month, so not very long.
Yeah, they do have a target of settling all claims within 28 days. So they did meet that target for you, and they do meet it in most cases. Occasionally there's a hiccup. What do you see as the main pros and cons of making an R&D claim?
I think the most obvious pro is that these funds exist and they're available to both large and small businesses. And perhaps that's not entirely answering your question, but when I first heard of the scheme sort of casually, I wrongly assumed it would be only available to large businesses with big R&D departments, which certainly isn't the case. So I think that's sort of the biggest pro to me, is that it is available to SMEs, and that's something that we should all make use of if we can. I think another pro is that there are experts out there to guide us through the process, which makes it really easy and streamlined and makes the support much more accessible, which is amazing. So I suppose another barrier to entry might be that it will be assumed that it's a very complicated process, which I don't think that it was. A con, I think I'd say when you begin is that it is a very retrospective process. So I think our first claim was for like a 3-year period, which we did mean that we needed to have really good accounts and detailed accounts to enable us to compile all the information for the claim correctly. But I think moving forward that will become less of a challenge as the periods of time are more recent.
Yes, exactly. Those things do become easier when you're working well. If you keep up to date and manage to do your claims with your accounting, then that's a good way to go. The key question, I guess, given that HMRC wants people to invest in R&D and this scheme is there to incentivise that, do you think that the R&D scheme will influence your future decisions on investment in R&D?
We're really new to this incentive, as you said, so I think at the moment it's hard to say, but I'd like to think that they would, that moving forward it will enable us to invest more in projects and be more ambitious with our innovation. Now that we understand and we can calculate the kind of funds that we'll receive back, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to incorporate that into our project plans, and it will give us freedom to invest more. I think that would be amazing.